What's up, you guys? So today I have the great opportunity to collaborate with Thermal Research and Development Performance, or as many know them by Thermal R&D Performance. I will be doing an install of their 2022 plus Honda Civic Si front pipe back exhaust with polished tips, which is in this box. Then I'll be reviewing it afterwards. So let's go ahead and unbox this thing and let's see how it looks. So we got a pretty big box here, so let's go ahead and get this thing out. Everything is pretty well packaged so far, which I'd like to see. So let's go ahead and slowly pull this out here. So right here we got the clamps and we got the gasket in here as well. And let's go ahead and pull out the rest of the exhaust here. Here's one of the mufflers. Got this one right here. And we got the polished chips, which are in here. And then we got the other muffler. And so here's everything out the box. And then I also got a Thermal R&D Performance plate cover, which is really nice. So the version I got is actually the polished chips one. They also have the black ceramic tip option, but I really wanted that classic shiny look, and here it is. This thing is super shiny and clean. So everything out of the box looks really nice, and this exhaust system actually uses 3-inch mandrel bends to really maximize the flow, and it is made out of T304 stainless steel, which makes it very durable, and on top of their warranty, which lasts a lifetime, you'll be set forever. And I really like how everything was so well packaged, lots of packing foam in there. And this was made in the US, and same for all their exhaust systems. But anyway, enough talking for now. Let's get this thing on and I'll review it afterwards. So first thing, make sure you jack up your car nice and safely. And I already have it jacked up, so just make sure you have room underneath and we'll go from there. And so when you have your car jacked up, there are going to be 2 clips on each side of the passenger side and driver's side wheel, so make sure you unclip that. And then underneath on the skid tray, we're going to remove 4 10mm bolts. I'm just going to go ahead and get this off here. And same thing on the passenger side. Let's go ahead and remove this guy. There we go. So now when you're underneath your car, there's going to be 4 10mm bolts. The one's right here, and the one's right here as well. And this is at the end of your skid tray, and it'll be the same location over there on that side as well. So just go ahead and remove these bolts. There we go. So now that we got the 10mm bolts off, you're going to have enough space to take off the bolts over here that we use for the front pipe. And then up here, we're going to go ahead and lube this up. You could use some soapy water or even some Windex so we can remove this, and then we'll go from there. So now let's go ahead and remove this guy first. So I got all of the hardware out, and what I realized was that I'm actually going to go ahead and take my current mufflers off. So I'm going to go ahead and take these off and those bolts over there as well. So for my current exhaust, it does use 17mm socket to get these bolts off. The OEM exhaust, I believe, uses 10mm or 12mm, so you'll just have to figure out what size works. And so I'm going to go ahead and unbolt these, and let's go ahead and get the exhaust out. So now that we have the hardware off, we're going to lube up the hangers here. So I'm just going to go ahead and spray some of soap and water for both sides. And then we're just going to remove the muffler. And if you have one of these exhaust hanger tools, this thing is a lifesaver, so make sure you use one of these, or you can use pliers to get the hangers out. I'm just going to squeeze this through and it should pop off. Make sure you support your exhaust mufflers so it doesn't falling damage. So I got one of the pliers off, and then we're gonna go ahead and do the other side as well. Pull that through, and there you go. And same thing for this side. Go. And when it comes to these hangers, there's going to be a thing here that says up right there. So just make sure when you're putting back this exhaust hanger that is up. And while I'm at it, I'm also going to remove those exhaust hangers right there. So we're going to go ahead and lube those up and then use the exhaust hanger tool to get them off. So I almost got one of them off, and then once you have it all the way off, you'll do the same to the other side. So there we go, both hangers are off. Now we're gonna go ahead and move up to the mid hanger over there. So now I'm back closer to the front pipe once again, and this hanger is the last hanger that we're gonna remove, and then I'll be able to take off my exhaust from there. So same thing, just gonna spray it. Get it nice and lubed up there. Make sure when you're taking this off that you have some support to catch your exhaust so that it doesn't drop on you or it doesn't scratch itself. So just a heads up on that. So here's the hanger, and this is what it looked like once you have it all off. So we got the front pipe there. We're gonna use those bolts that came from 271 and put it onto the new exhaust. So all we need to do is pull this out, and then we'll move on from there. I'm gonna gently pull this out and actually use some of the foam from the thermal R&D exhaust so I can pull it out much easier. And so the exhaust won't scratch while I'm doing that. And it's working pretty great. And this is why you should wear gloves. So here is how everything looks. We're gonna go ahead and remove this hanger here and move it over there. And let me quickly show you why this tool is super handy. All you need to do is literally put this here and then squeeze out and it comes out. Instead of having to pry with a wrench, it makes it so much easier. And then just remember, when putting this back, there's the up sign there. So just make sure this is facing upwards and then you should be good. And one more thing, here's the difference between the 271 exhaust. I had to use a spacer here just so the bolt would fit, but here I don't need that. So I'm just gonna use the OEM 271 front pipe bolts, and I'm also gonna use the nut, but I'm gonna put a spacer in between, not this one, just like a washer, so we can have it all snug up in there. So from here, you're gonna grab the gasket that came with the kit, and we're gonna go ahead and put it with the front pipe that I have on from 271, and then we'll put on this mid pipe here and get everything all set and secured. Before we actually put this on, I'm gonna put a mark here so I know how far up I need to put the supplied 3-inch double compression clamp from the kit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mark it at 1.5 inches, and I'm just gonna use a Sharpie here. So about 1.5 inches, so right here is how far we want to put it on, and we'll do that later. And there's actually going to be 2 other clamps that we'll use later, but these are smaller and you'll be able to tell which one's bigger. So we're going to use the bigger one so we can connect the white pipe later onto this one. So from here, we're going to get the gasket. We're going to put it onto here. Just make sure it's on there nice and flush, and it should fit your OE bolts that are already on there. And as for mine, this fits perfectly to the 271 front pipe, and then we'll put on the mid pipe with it. Now I'm going to carefully line up the thermal R&D mid pipe here, and just going to make sure that the gasket is on there as well. So the gasket and the bolts are lined up. Then I also have this hanger all set up as well for this mid pipe. It's a really tight squeeze down here, so I'm trying my best to show you guys. Now all we need to do is put the OE bolts that we took off from the front pipe. So right now I'm putting the washer and then a crusher washer before the bolt here, and I'm just hand tightening it for the time being. And you're going to do that for all 3 bolts, and then we'll tighten it from there and torque it, and then we'll put back the bolts that we took off from this dustpan here. So before we put back the bolts for this cover here, I'm actually torquing every single bolt or nut to 65 foot-pounds of torque, and you're going to do that for all 3. There we go. So each bolt is now torqued to 65 foot-pounds of torque. Now we're going to go ahead and put the other mid pipe here, and we'll put the 3-inch double compression clamp here and line it up on the mark that we put earlier. So before moving on, make sure the push clip that we took off from each side is back on here, and that the dust cover down here, we put the 4 10mm bolts back on as well. So moving on to this mid pipe, we're going to go ahead and grab this clamp and make sure this is facing downwards. And we're going to go ahead and put it on here, and then we're going to go ahead and lube up the hangers for those, and that's going to be the ones down there. And when we put this mid pipe on, that's going to show us or tell us how much we can put on the clamp, because the other one is marked, and I'll show you guys what I mean by that. And one more tip before sliding this down all the way, there's going to be a mark here that says right, so just make sure this is oriented the right way, and then we'll move on from there. So one of the first things I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put these hangers here on, and I'm going to lubricate it just so it's easier to get on there, and then we'll go ahead and tighten up the clamp up there once we have these hangers on. So just go ahead and lubricate these just so everything slides on easier. I'm gonna go ahead and connect this in here, and then you want to do the same for this side over here. There we go. And as long as you feel the nub go in past the hanger here, you're all set to go. Let's go ahead and move on to the clamp up there. All right, so now we're just gonna connect the mid pipes here, and then using the clamp, we're gonna go ahead and connect these 2, and make sure you line up this clamp here to the line that we put up earlier, which is 1.5 inches here. So we're just gonna line this up right there, and just make sure it's pretty flush on there, and you should be pretty good to go. So now what we're gonna do is just gonna tighten this up, then we're gonna torque these 2 bolts here to 65 foot-pounds of torque as well. So what I'm doing is I'm tightening it up a little bit here, and then I'm going to torque them in a little bit just to make sure we don't need to make adjustments when it comes to the clamp itself. So I'm using a size 15 socket, and I'm just kind of tightening it up here, but not all the way. So now we're actually going to install the left and right chambers, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab the 2.5-inch double compression clamp, and we're going to do the same witness mark earlier, meaning we're going to do the 1.5-inch mark at this mid pipe here. I'm just going to use a Sharpie, and I'll show you guys what to do there, and we'll go back to the clamp earlier and we'll torque that down as well. We're going to go ahead and mark these down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a meter, same thing, 1.5 inch here, and then we'll just mark it, and then we'll also do the same on this side, and we're good to go from there. Now we're going to take the 2.5 inch double compression clamps, and then we're going to slide that all the way over for right now, and same thing, make sure the nuts are facing downwards, and then we'll do the same for this side, and then we can just leave it dangling for right now. We'll go ahead and fix that later. So now get your left and right chambers, just make sure they're oriented the right way. So this is the left one, and then we have the right one here, and then we're going to go ahead and find the exhaust hangers here, and the same thing, we're gonna go ahead and lube it up and just make sure it's oriented the right way. And you'll see like a Honda emblem and the part number, and make sure the part number is on the bottom and the Honda emblem is at the top. That's when you know that you have it oriented the right way. So now we're going to go ahead and connect the left and right chambers. So first I'm actually going to do the passenger side, which is the right side, and then we'll do the left side, which is the driver's side. Just going to go ahead and put this up here. And there we go. So there's that hanger. Just make sure it's nice and lined up here. And then what you can actually do is get the clamp on the right side and just kind of connect it for now, just so your right chamber is not dangling. And so we'll go ahead and do the same for that side. Same thing. Just lube this up just so it's easier to get everything on. And just as long as the nubs are nice and flush on the end here, you're all set to go. Then I'm going to connect the clamp over here as well, just so it's not dangling everywhere. So there we go. Both nubs are all lined up, and same on this side. Now we're going to go ahead and actually tighten up these clamps and then the clamp that we were working on earlier as well. So I'm going to go ahead and line up the clamp where we marked it. So we'll just scoot this over, make it all flush on the line there, and make sure this is facing down. And then we'll go ahead and tighten this up for right now. A good snug is good, just make sure you don't over tighten it, and then we'll torque it all together later. Here we go. And then same thing on this side as well. So once again, just line up the clamp to that line that we drew earlier. So mine's right there. Gonna make it nice and flush onto it, and then we should be good to tighten it from there. So now I'm just torquing this clamp up here, and everything seems to be fitting just fine, so we don't need to make any adjustments. So just go ahead and torque this down to 65 foot-pounds of torque. And then same for the clamps down here, same torque specs as well. There we go, so those are good. Same for these ones down here. All set. So the last thing we're going to do is put on the tips and the clamps for them, and make sure that the thermal R&D logo is facing outwards, so just like this. So let's go ahead and do this one first. So we're going to have the clamp facing downwards, and then we're going to put the tip on here. So just to make it nice and flush. And I'm going to have it like that. There's plenty of space, so it's not going to melt the diffuser. And then the logo here is facing that way. Now let's go ahead and tighten up the clamp here. And so for this clamp, we're going to leave it at the very back of the tip here. And we're going to make sure that it's facing down. And if you don't like the amount of space between your tips, you can go ahead and adjust that later on. Now all that's left to do is just torque this down as well. There we go. And then just do the same on the passenger side. There we go. So once you have everything torqued down, here is the final look. And this looks so clean. And what I did was I actually brought out the tips out a little bit so I can have it lined up with the diffuser. But as you can see, there's plenty of space in between the exhaust and diffuser itself, so it's not melting anything. And it's also the same for this side over here. No melting going on. But these polished tips look so good, and The thermal R&D logo on there is just a great touch as well. The install wasn't that bad at all. I just didn't have much room underneath, so I took extra precautions just to make sure everything is safe. But without further ado, here are some sound clips. So as you heard, this exhaust system sounds insanely good. I do have the 271 downpipe and 271 front pipe, and altogether it sounds really great. If you do have stock components or aftermarket parts like I do, this will fit no problem since it was designed to bolt up with the factory hardware on your car. But one of the biggest things I love about this exhaust, I hope the mic can pick it up. I don't have like any noise gate or anything on my mic right now, but besides how good it sounds is the fact that it has no drone whatsoever. Like in the cabin right now, it's super minimal compared to my other setup. After driving it for a few days now to almost actually like 5 days, my daily driving has improved drastically, especially within the cabin. And right now I'm cruising in 6th gear and the drone is pretty silent. I'm gonna do a little pull here. Whew. But from my previous setup, I did get used to the droning, but some days it would still get to me, you know. But this thermal R&D exhaust for the SI has changed that, and it's such a game changer because droning isn't really an issue anymore. And I'm cruising, and from the first time I drove it, it was such a big difference compared to how it used to sound inside the cabin. It's just personally, I prefer having an exhaust that is comfortable yet still gives you that premium sound I'm looking for, and here it is. I love it, honestly, and it sounds amazing. It has that aggressive tone to it, and the loudness is just the perfect amount. But most importantly, the drone isn't really there anymore, which makes this exhaust system really stand out to me. Now a little overview about thermal R&D themselves. This exhaust actually uses drone canceling mufflers, which is sick. Plus, they built this exhaust specifically for the 2022 Honda Civic Si, and I do believe they also have it for the Acura Integra as well. And this thing is super lightweight, and they integrated their Helmholtz chambers to reduce weight and cost. And the 2.5-inch mandrel bent exhaust expands the diameter of the tubing to increase maximum performance. So if you're worried about performance, this thing will give you the maximum amount of performance you can get from an exhaust. And moving on, Thermal R&D's goal has always been drone elimination and performance for decades now. They also have been manufacturing exhausts since the early 90s, and they've been very successful due to their use of premium materials, and I couldn't agree with that since everything is really well made. They construct their high quality systems and engineer them to be drone free, which is really cool. And from my experience, that is very much true. But I honestly feel like once the break-in period passes, it'll be way more quiet than it already is. They're actually one of the only exhaust manufacturers in the US to use true Helmholtz technology to build their drone-free exhaust systems. And what that means is that that technology is actually integrated in these chambers here. And what it does is it eliminates annoying cabin noise or drone itself, while maintaining like a desired performance and sound, and it also improves vehicle performance. And I thought that was really cool because the neck of the chambers here, and what it does, it actually selectively cancels out like specific unwanted frequencies, so it's creating a much more quieter and refined exhaust note, and the note from this exhaust is really nice. One of the last things I'll say about them is that they build their systems for enthusiasts, which is awesome. They're not all about being the most popular brand, but more so building great exhausts for many vehicles because they're enthusiasts themselves. Overall, this exhaust will for sure give you exceptional sound, as you heard, and increase in performance, while being customizable with their high-end compression clamps that we put on here, which actually allows maximum adjustability, which I really like because you can set your exhaust tips further in or further out. And I've never seen an exhaust system that has this kind of customization, and it speaks for itself. Anyway, once again, thank you Thermal R&D for making all of this happen for me. This exhaust has actually been one of my favorite systems, and seeing it on my build and hearing it in person just makes me wish I got it way sooner. But I am more grateful for this collaboration, and I am also beyond satisfied with how easy the install was and how great, premium sounding and looking this exhaust is. If you guys have any further questions, just let me know down below, and I'll link this exhaust for you guys to check out as well. But as always, stay safe and drive safe out there, you guys. I'll catch you on the next one.